Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is an exciting video because we are going to be making over my very outdated bedroom. It needs a full remodel and that's what we're going to be doing today. So if you like this type of content, please make sure to like this video and subscribe down below. We just reached 10,000 subscribers and now we're on to the road of our first 100,000 subscribers. I know we can do it, but I need your help. But we've got a room that needs to be made over, so let's get on it. So this is where we're starting at. This whole house is super old and very outdated. Really every square inch of this place needs to be renovated to bring it back to the modern times, which is just the way I like it. The old owner had tons of animals in their house, leaving this nasty carpet, which absolutely has to go. I'm also not a fan of the boob lights or the outdated curtains, so those are getting changed up as well. And while we're at it, the popcorn ceiling has to go. I called in Mr. Avery to help with a lot of this project because at this point we were not moved in yet, but eager to do so, which meant we wanted this project done quick. He put his electrician skills to use right away by taking out the boob ceiling light, and while he was at it, he also temporarily took out the smoke alarm, just trying to free everything from the ceiling, knowing that we were going to be scraping them. And while we were in the process of removing things and taking things down, we decided to do the curtains too. Then came time to start scraping the popcorn ceilings. This was definitely the worst part of the whole makeover because it was clear and obvious that the ceilings had been painted right before the previous owner sold the house. There is evidence of this with the bleed through on some of the ceilings throughout the house, which is actually completely besides the point. The point is, anyone who has ever scraped popcorn ceilings, whether it's during their own remodel projects or they do it as a profession, they would know that scraping popcorn ceilings that have been painted is 10 times as hard as scraping ceilings that weren't painted. This is something that we came to learn during the renovation process of this house because although we had scraped the whole popcorn ceilings at our flip house prior, the ceilings were never painted, so the process was super easy. So going into this house, I thought that it would be a piece of cake, but that was far from the truth. Eventually though, we as in mostly Avery, got the hang of it. In order to scrape popcorn ceilings properly, you need to wet the area with water. We just used a hose because that was the easiest, and then we let it sit for like 5 minutes. But in this case, the longer that we let it sit, the easier it was to scrape back those painted popcorn ceilings. Then we were just really careful to scrape the ceilings without puncturing the drywall, otherwise we would have to make further repairs. But also, I wanted to mention, depending on the age of your house, you do definitely want to check and test for asbestos and also lead paint before doing a project like this. Luckily, we didn't come across either of those after testing, but those can be so harmful, and you really don't want to run across either of those, and if you do, you need to take extra precautions. By the end of it, we were left with this mess. We didn't care about the carpets because we would be tearing them out, but it was definitely one of those things where it's gonna look worse before it looks better, but I got to admit, even at this point, I love seeing those flat ceilings. Finally, it was my time to shine. While the ceilings were drying from scraping the popcorn off of them, I started to remove the old trim. The rooms are pretty small, so it's not like there was much of it. It really didn't take that long at all. Avery was able to quickly follow behind me, and he started cutting up the carpet into long strips so that we can remove that. By the time we were finished doing everything to remove the carpets, the ceilings were now dry, so we could continue to do those. And from everything that I've learned in flipping houses and doing renovations, one of the biggest tips that I can give is always to work from top to bottom. Otherwise, you will always be having to go back and forth and touch things up, which can be so annoying when you're in the process. We are using a Kills stain blocking primer to put on the ceilings first. It's important that you always prime drywall if it's the first thing that's being put on, and because we scraped all of the popcorn ceilings, we are now dealing with that raw drywall. And although this house doesn't smell like cigarette smoke like our flip house did, we still decided to use the Kills primer because there are definitely some musty odors in this house. That Kills primer is really strong, and so after we finished priming, we just left the house for the night. I get a headache just being around it, so I definitely could not spend a night in the house with it being put on. But we did come back early the next morning and started painting the ceilings with just a random bright white ceiling paint. But this is where we really started to feel like we were seeing the transformation. Although these tasks are a lot of work, it definitely is going to up the value of our house if we ever choose that we want to sell. We do currently have plans to turn this into a long-term rental after about 2 years of living here ourselves. And if we can get this house fully remodeled in those 2 years that we live here, that will also bring up our rental income. After painting the ceilings were done, with it being the master bedroom, we did decide to put in a ceiling fan, and then we got into putting down the new floors. We picked this Pergo Outlast flooring in the Frappe Hunt Oak color. This is a waterproof flooring, which I absolutely love. I really like that it was a lighter color flooring, but it also had some variation. It did have one board that was super dark though compared to the rest, and I didn't quite love that, so I always made sure to take that board out when it came up in the variation of boards. It was only $2.79 a square foot, and it came in tons of other colors and finishes as well. I really liked this flooring and how easy it was to lay down, so I definitely recommend it. I got ours from our local Home Depot. When it came time to actually laying down the flooring, me and Avery had a really good system. He was the guy that was making all the cuts and snapping each board into place, while I was right ahead of him, always cleaning up and making sure that there wasn't any dust where he was about to lay the flooring, as well as setting the next boards down just ahead of him so that when he needed the next one, he was in close proximity of it. We were able to get this room done in just a few hours, which I would say is good for a couple of amateurs. Avery also spent the night putting up the trim, and I went through and mopped the floors really nice. We wanted it to look nice and clean because we had some family coming to look at our house for the first time the next morning. I seriously love how the flooring and this room turned out. It really is crazy what a couple things can do to change a space. And here we are today. I am sitting in the master bedroom. Obviously it is now furnished and we've brought all of our belongings in. It's also snowing for the first time, which is absolutely crazy. Yes, we have blankets for curtains. Don't judge, it's only temporary. But this is what the room looks like as we have it furnished today. This is definitely just a part one because if you guys notice, we didn't actually get to painting the walls. It is a white, which I like, but it's not like a super dark white. I definitely want a nicer bright white. I especially want to do it because we weren't too careful of getting the ceiling paint on the walls because we knew we would paint eventually. Another few minor things is just hanging curtains and blinds, and I also really want to do something with these doors because they stand out like a sore thumb. Also changing out some of the electrical things, but in addition to a couple more renovations, also doing a room makeover. You can see none of our furniture in here matches, so you guys are gonna have to stay tuned because there's definitely gonna be a part 2 to this video where we're finishing some of those little minor details and giving this room a whole new makeover with our furnishings and everything so that this room just really looks complete, matches, and feels like a really nice master bedroom. If you do want to see that part 2, you are going to have to make sure to get subscribed down below so that you don't miss it. But that's the end for today's video. Please make sure to like this video, comment down below what what you loved most about this video. Engagement really helps small channels like mine grow, and I will see you guys in the next video.